So it's Millennium Stein, guys, coming to you with another deck profile, nigga. We got Ursartics, but we got more than one deck profile this time. We got a few of them things. A whole lot, or it's a few, but we got quite a few this time of the deck profile. So we got this deck profile, but I'm gonna show y'all some replays first, and I'll show you some of the other deck profiles. And Ursartics have a lot of potential, and I think I know what deck profile we're gonna actually end up going with for like what strategy you should more likely run. Some of these are only good really going first. Like this deck's basically only really going first. And with all the good strong going second cards out, this deck's a little bit lackluster. And you definitely need cards like Ursartic Departure and your Polari and your Big Dipper cards to help you mitigate that advantage, because otherwise, you know what I'm saying, you just lose out on everything. So we can go look at some replays for the Ursartic archetype. So this is one of the first builds. It's one of the more competitive builds. In this build, based on Dragoon, a boss monster. But as you can see, you do one thing, I put Christie in the graveyard and I bring it back. And a lot of people just have to scoop at that point. Boom. Yeah, 100 after that. That thing literally has 0 attack points, so I didn't do no burns. That's that. This is the more of the swamp frogish generator engine. That's why it's called Ursartic Waters. So either God didn't read my card, or he was like, that's my only play, so yeah. But it's like you either leave my monster there if you can't do anything else, or scoop. But this is actually a good deck. But you can toss it up to the fact that, yeah, I just happen to have Solemn Judgment in my deck, and this guy needs his field spell to go off really bad, and I just happen to have my Ursartic Departure card. Better off to like try to stay close to 40 cards, because you're gonna need to draw those other cards that aren't in the archetype, or even draw your Ursartic Departure as soon as possible. You can get away with that with more pot cards though, but it's still, deck's not strong enough so far. I think I have something figured out though, guys, but I'm probably gonna bring that to you another day, so stay tuned for that. And the other Ursartic deck profile gonna drop. Same profile, but for some reason this dude scoops. I get why I think he did scoop, because that was the only thing he could make. But he would have been able to draw cards, or he just didn't want to see what the outcome could have been. Maybe the guy had to go, but it seems like the deck was like, this is stressful. I'm like, bro, I could have easily just waited until he got scales, but for some reason, him building up to get the Endymion was just not cool. If he would have built up and got that Endymion, I would have been completely in trouble. But obviously, I don't think it was going to be that big of a deal, because I could have just popped the Endymion in the skill. So I don't know why I did that. Kind of a misplay on my part. Which means I could have probably won the game anyway. But instead I had to fucking struggle. Well, I had an interruption, so if he gets Blue Boy, I could just put it face down. You can't attack over this, and then I can attack over that. Next turn I drew a droplet, so I still would have had to wait. Then we got Time Lords over here. And this is the Zeus build, that's what I'll call it. But no Zeus, because Zeus looks like he's supposed to be right there in the deck with the artwork. That nigga not even in it. Oh, my channel's gonna be like that, huh? Well, no, he's not. That's why it's not for kids, man. Oh no, see, I had Weaken the Dragon and wasted some resources. Imagine if I just had Dark Ruler no more when I had to waste all my resources. That's why I said Droplet is good, but yeah, Dark Ruler no more is really good too. Play either one for real. This at least helps me get back some type of advantage. But then my opponent tends to forget. They forget about Big Dipper. And it's easy to forget about Big Dipper. Yeah, and that's one thing I realized is that this deck is like you just open up a little bit bad going second, or you go second, you can't get rid of an established board. Your deck's not really good at breaking boards. It's mostly good for going first. That's why I think a lot of people are leaning towards Kaiju package, because at least Kaiju package can, but it has no advantage outside of Slumber going second. So guys, tell me what you think about Ursartics. Shouldn't be all the profiles, but so it might be all the Ursartic. Yeah, we got this Evil Swarm, bro. So yeah, we'll show you this one. Gets Evil Swarm. And obviously, this card would probably be better played with like Link Karibo. Yeah, you can make Shin Shin, but the cost is just so high. And this is why Crystal Girl will probably be like somewhat of a staple. It's like then they just scoop because of you know, Nidhogg Generator Boss of Ice. Right, fits right in. And yep, that's about it. So I'll go for a couple deck profiles. Like first one is this. It's more for going first, and you just pitch your floodies or your negates, and then you bring them back. Now this can be mixed and matched with a bunch of cards in the game. So fret not, this deck has potential that maybe I don't even know about. So maybe somebody else posted the video first, but I do have a deck profile that I think might be the definitive version for this thing to play. But even so, it may not be the best version of that deck, because that deck can act on its own. It doesn't need to have this deck at all to rely on it as an engine. Therefore, to rely on this deck of the engine is to have a 40 card deck that says, well, if I open up Micpolar, then I maybe have a couple hand traps. But as we know, that's going to cost you another card. It already cost you a card to summon Micpolar. Now it's going to cost you another card just to interrupt your opponent. It seems like something you don't want to do most of the time. So these, even though having a quick play effect, seem like they don't want to be activated unless you go first to set up on your opponent, because the cost will be too great. So, yep, lefty and righty driver, one card Ursartic Polar instead of your normal standard 2 card. So you got 1 card Ursartic Polar, triple departure because on your opponent's turn you get to summon for Ursartic, so you need to play 3 of these. Then Monster Reborn because brings them back and they activate when they're special summon. Pot of Disparity. More draw power, dig deep. Big Dipper. You could play 2 of these because it's really that good. Being able to mitigate your ability to use your advantage. But most of the time people won't just destroy this shit, so I only play like 1. 3 back to the fronts and then 2 Quint Charge. You only gotta play 1 of these. Ain't no point in playing multiples of these really. And then 1 Oasis Dragon Soul, 1 Call of the Haunted, and then 3 Solemn Judgments. And you can just go back to playing multiple Oases or Call of Haunted, whichever one you want. Problem with this deck is obviously gotta go first. And then the Ursartic Dragoon package. Pretty self-explanatory. I mean, that's one of the first ones we've seen, right? So Red Eyes Fusion. You ain't really running the little guys because you could just make these guys anyway. And then you can just make this and then go into Red Eyes. And you can't really play 2 of them. So, yeah, 3, then the Foolish because you can send any monster you want to, including a Ursartic, and then bring it back and then go from there. Triple Droplets and then 3 back to the front, 2 Oasis, 3 Psalms. So you could just go Dark Ruler no more instead of Droplet. But Droplet is actually really good and won me some games. And then, of course, the water version of the deck, which basically just runs the Swamp Frog engine and a Generator engine with a Gizmex, which is also leading you into Ultima Messiah token. And still play with Crystal Girl with the Foolish Burial, Pot of Disparity instead of a 3rd Crystal Girl. So you can still go back to playing 3 Crystal Girls if you want to. So, I mean, you want to be more like, this deck's pretty straightforward. Swamp Frog package just to make, totally awesome. But as you can see, it's mainly a going first deck. And then you're going to have to put a whole bunch of going second cards up in here. So you have to probably take out Disparity, Oasis, and Call of the Haunted just to play a card that, you know what I'm saying? Because you don't really need those, but back to the front, you definitely would want that. And then you take out Disparity, Oasis, Dragon Souls, and Call of the Haunted for a going second card. Or something else. This deck doesn't play Foolish. So those cards for that. And then still only 2 Crystal Girls. Because sometimes this card is not that good. You should just, and you need going second card. So Dark Ruler no more and Evenly Matched might actually be good enough. Or maybe not. Just all depends. But yeah, the deck does need a lot of work in order to succeed, because you have more of a go second build, but I wanted to have something that could be a little bit of both. And so right now, this is where we're sitting at. So guys, tell me what you think about these deck profiles and about the Ursartics. Do Ursartics, will they potentially have meta potential, or will they get some more support to mitigate their disadvantage? Just quirk. That's the real underlying question with this archetype. So I don't really see them being top tier, but they are a mighty fun deck, being able to summon Ursartic, Septrion, and turn off your opponent's extra decks. Also be able to get a free search and then Grand Chariot, you can pop 2 cards, which is kind of an average effect, but Septrion has actually good effect. And then Ursartic Polari, which is pretty good. With a couple of cards, and you get Ursartic Polari on the field, you summon these two. As long as you can have another big monster out, which is you can tribute 1 level 7 higher monster. It doesn't matter what it is. This even includes the Gizmek. You can tribute 1 level 7 higher monster, add to your hand, or special one Ursartic monster from graveyard. But that doesn't even matter. Once you get Big Dipper out on the field, you can just banish one from your graveyard to special summon one from your graveyard. So you just could banish the Micpolar, special summon the level 8 that you use to make the Ursartic Polari, and then make the Septetrion or the Grand Chariot, whichever one. So, pretty good shit. You ain't really got to worry about nothing except for getting this out, and then going and grab one of these level 8s, and then synchroing up, and then banishing from your graveyard. Still, that's like a 3-card combo. And I gotta say, man, that's like way too much advantage you gotta give up. Way too much advantage. Like Micpolar kind of represents and gives you one of those cards back. So it's more like a 3-card instead of like a 4-card. Because you gotta have 4 cards in hand for the extra pitch. So you don't wasted your entire hand in order to make this. More or less, right? Well, let me say no. You wasted like about 2 cards. About 3 cards. So just to make this card, you need the Ursartic, you need the Micpolar, summon the Micpolar, boom, so you discarded 1 card and this card from your hand. So there's already 2 cards, and then boom, you would need a 3rd card for the one that you search. So you could just use the one that you search. So you need a 3rd card. It's a 3-card combo just to summon out Septetrion. That's kind of hefty, man. That's like extremely hefty. So if we can get past that, from needing 3 cards to summon Septetrion, then the deck might be decent. But they do have a Floodgate boss monster, which Konami, I don't think they're going to want this thing to be summoned too easy. Otherwise, it's just going to be like, well, you know, we're going to be looking at a ban list soon, and this deck probably won't get a support that makes it any decent until in the future. Because I think this archetype has more potential than Odeix. Odeix just have some crazy off the wall combos. Yeah, true. This deck has a boss monster that shuts a lot of that down. And then on top of that, they have ways to mitigate their advantage. Albeit not in a very good way. So they need something a little extra. Once they get that, they should actually be a halfway playable deck. I mean, we have other decks that don't even have anything like that. This deck will probably get some more. Like, these decks can play at a big disadvantage, and then Abyss can just gain advantage, and then give your opponent a whole bunch of advantage, and they come out of the same set. So we'll see, guys. I'm go ahead and end the video here. Go ahead and lightning strike that fucking like button, and we gonna get back to it with another video.